What is good, village hitting in the real? Today's video, we're going to be talking about Yuta's plan to use Gojo's body to defeat Sukuna, because this will be Yuta's final domain expansion. Because after this one, y'all know he's out. We know Yuta about to get killed. So we know that Yuta's copying Gojo when he fought Sukuna. Back in chapter 228, Satoru Gojo had created a basketball-sized barrier so that he could strengthen it from the outside. This would allow Gojo 3 minutes and 9 seconds to injure Sukuna before Sukuna slashes destroys the barrier from the outside. The reason Gojo was able to create this barrier is because of his time in the prison realm. This is how Gojo was able to exploit the weak point of an open domain barrier. For Yuta, this is no different because it forces Sukuna to have to change his effective range to only the outline of Yuta's domain. This means that Yuta and Sukuna are trapped until their domain lands the finishing blow. We know that Gojo and Sukuna domain expansion was equal in power as well as refinement. Satoru had figured out that if he can deal enough damage within the time of 3 minutes and 9 seconds inside the domain, then he would win. This is the same logic that Yuta is using as he was watching the fight between Gojo and Sukuna intently. But Sukuna has a catch. Back in chapter 258, Sukuna had imposed a 99-second time limit, which Yuta would have been able to cook him quickly. But Sukuna removed the 99-second rule because he's only targeting Yuta at this point, where Yuta is doing the same strategy that Satoru was doing by taking in the account that Sukuna is fatigued. Yuta must damage Sukuna to the point that he can no longer maintain his domain. But there was a massive revelation in chapter 262, and that is Yuta and Gojo swap souls, which helped Yuta elevate his barrier techniques. But we know this is Jujutsu Kaisen, y'all. And what can go wrong will go wrong, as Sukuna doesn't intend to let the fight go for 3 minutes and 9 seconds. What he plans to do is kill all the sorcerers at the same time as destroy Yuta's domain barrier. As their domain clashes, they begin their fight inside the domain. Yuta tries to use blue the way Gojo used blue in chapter 235. Basically, what Yuta and Gojo are doing is compressing existing space and thus compelling everything within its range to fill the void created. The spatial phenomena to bring the concept of negative numbers and negative distance into reality, forcing real space to compensate and filling the area by drawing everything towards the impossibility. This is what Satoru exploited with something called the Alcabora warp drive. It is the idea that tracked the force of blue to give himself a teleportation move. This is derived from something called the Alcabora warp drive. It is the idea that you can achieve faster than light by contracting space in front of it and expanding the space behind it. This is what we saw back in chapter 226 when Satoru surprised Sukuna when his speed increased, which Sukuna ended up taking the reversal red to the face because he was caught off guard. He couldn't even react to it. This is what Yuta is trying to do, but Sukuna has the advantage. Sukuna dashes towards him and uses his several arms to parry Yuta's counter. Sukuna lands a strong punch on Yuta's face. Yuta wonders how Sukuna managed to land the attack. That's when he realizes that alongside domain expansion, Sukuna is simultaneously using domain amplification to penetrate through infinity. We have seen this before. Back in chapter 227, it was stated that Sukuna could use his domain expansion and domain amplification at the same time. And that's because Sukuna's curse technique is imbued in his domain expansion. Sukuna is that dude, y'all. I'm telling you, Sukuna is that dude. But the scene switches back to a fully manifested Rika crying over Yuta's lifeless body. while calling out his name. We see that as she's holding his body, Shoko had actually stitched up Yuta. I almost said Yuji, my bad. Yuta, after he was cut in half by Sukuna. So what we're looking at is what the author had stated like 3 or 4 years ago, where he said that his ending would be either Yuji dies and everyone lives. Did you enjoy this chapter? Because this chapter, I think, was a little short, but it was kind of like amazing in a sense because we got so much information. And if you enjoyed the video per se, just hit that like button. But I do want to hear what you think about this chapter. And I will catch you on the next video. So peace out, y'all.